She rolled up her sleeve, not to show him, just to reach across the desk for a folder. 1 second. That's all it took. And Jin-ho, a man who had ordered people to disappear without blinking, went completely, dangerously still. That circular scar on her forearm, the size of a cigarette tip, told him everything. He didn't ask questions. He didn't say a word. He just picked up his phone that night, and someone stopped existing. Hey besties. Welcome back to another irresistible Mafia romance story. I missed you. Before we dive in, tell me in the comment where you're watching from. I love seeing how far my girls are. And if you're new here, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe. Stay with me, because these stories, they only get crazier. Amora Osei did not come to Seoul to survive. She came to thrive. A Nigerian American with 3 languages on her tongue and a translation contract that was supposed to change her life. That was 18 months ago. Now she was sitting in a studio apartment that smelled like someone else's life, with $43 in her account and a boyfriend who had somehow become the walls closing in around her. Daniel hadn't hit her. Not with his fists. He was smarter than that. He intercepted her emails until her contract quietly dissolved. He charmed her out of calling her mother. He burned her once, just once, with the tip of his cigarette, pressed to the inside of her forearm, calm as a man putting out a flame. Then he held her while she cried and told her she had made him do it. She believed him for 3 more months. By the time she stopped believing him, she had no money, no network, and no exit. So when a staffing agency listing appeared on her screen, Executive Secretary, Seol Holdings, Trilingual Candidates Preferred, Discretion Essential, she applied before she could think too hard about what Discretion Essential actually meant. The building should have warned her. Black glass, no signage, men at the door who looked like they ironed their silence every morning. She was escorted through hallways that were too quiet for a company of this size and brought to a corner office on the 32nd floor where a man sat behind a desk like he had been carved into the room. Seol Jin-ho was not what she expected. She had expected old. Loud. The caricature of power. Instead he was lean, late 30s, with a stillness that felt almost physical, like the air around him had agreed to behave. He didn't stand when she entered. He didn't smile. He was reading something and he finished it before he looked at her. Then he gestured to the chair across from him. For questions. That was the interview. What do you do when you're afraid? She said, I get very quiet and I think. Have you ever kept a secret that cost you something? A pause. Then, yes. Do you startle easily? She almost laughed. Not anymore. And then the last one. Quiet. Precise. Like a scalpel. Who in Seoul knows you're here today? The room held its breath. She met his eyes, dark, unreadable, patient in the way that predators are patient. No one, she said. He closed her file. Monday. 8 a.m. Don't be late. In the elevator going down, her knees finally shook. Just for a moment. Then she straightened her spine and told herself it was temporary. Just until she could breathe again. She had no idea she had just walked into the safest danger of her life. 3 weeks in, and Amora was, by every measure, extraordinary. She managed Jin-ho's schedule with surgical precision. She sat in rooms full of men who radiated threat and took notes without her hand trembling. She learned quickly that Seol Holdings was not just a holdings company, but she had already suspected that. She filed it under secrets that cost something and kept moving. Jin-ho watched her the way he watched everything. Quietly. Cataloging. He noticed she always chose the chair closest to the exit. He noticed she ate lunch standing at her desk, facing the door. He noticed she wore long sleeves every day, in a building that was kept deliberately warm. He noticed. He said nothing. Until the Tuesday she reached across his desk for a document and her sleeve caught the corner of a file and pulled back just far enough. 1 second. The scar was small, round, deliberate. The kind of mark that doesn't happen by accident. Jin-ho went still. Not the professional stillness she had grown used to. This was different. Something moved behind his eyes. Fast. Dark. Gone before she could name it. She pulled her sleeve down. Met his gaze. Her chin lifted slightly. Don't. Just. Don't. He handed her the document without a word. She walked back to her desk. Her pulse was loud in her ears. She waited for him to say something, ask something, Make it awkward and unbearable the way people always did when they saw it. He didn't say a word. But that night, at 1 a.m., the light in his office was still on. And his head of intelligence received a call that lasted less than a minute. Daniel Cruz. American. Seoul business visa. Everything. By morning. Now here is where the story takes a turn nobody saw coming, because Jin-ho wasn't the only one running a background check that night. Amora, sitting in her studio apartment, had just found something on her laptop that made her blood run cold. A photo. Daniel, smiling, arm around a woman, tagged at a rooftop bar in Gangnam. Posted 40 minutes ago. He was already in Seoul. Amora stared at the screen until her eyes burned. Daniel was in Seoul. Same city. Possibly same neighborhood. And he was smiling in that photo the way he always smiled in public. Easy, warm, the kind of smile that made people think what a great guy. She knew what lived behind that smile. She had the scar to prove it. She snapped her laptop shut. Then opened it again. Then closed it. Her hands were steady. That scared her more than the shaking ever had, because it meant some part of her had already been expecting this. Had always known he wouldn't just let her disappear quietly. Men like Daniel didn't lose things. They retrieved them. She didn't sleep. She arrived at work at 7:58, 2 minutes early, posture perfect, face unreadable. Jin-ho was already at his desk. He looked up when she walked in, just briefly, and something passed across his face so fast she almost missed it. Almost. He knew something. She could feel it. She set his coffee down without a word and went to her desk and did her job with the focused intensity of a woman holding herself together with both hands. By noon, Jin-ho's intelligence head had delivered a file so thick it had to be folded. Jin-ho read it alone. Door closed. No interruptions. The narrator won't list what was in it. His face said enough. Jaw tight. Eyes flat and cold as stone floor. He sat with it for a long time after he finished reading. Then he did something no one in his organization had ever seen him do over a civilian matter. He picked up the phone and made the call himself. Didn't delegate. Didn't send a message through channels. He made it personally. Quietly. 40 seconds. Then he set the phone down and stared out at Seoul like a man who had just made peace with a decision. Meanwhile, 3 miles across the city, Daniel Cruz was ordering room service and texting Amora a message she would only see later. I know where you work, baby. We should talk. He never sent a second one. 2 days passed. Then 3. Amora kept checking his social media. Nothing new. She called his number from a private line. Disconnected. She told herself maybe he left. Maybe he got scared. Maybe for once in his life he made the smart choice. But on the 4th morning she walked into Jin-ho's office to deliver his schedule and stopped in the doorway. He was standing at the window, hands in his pockets, looking at the city. He didn't turn around. Close the door, he said. She did. The silence stretched. She had learned to wait him out. Jin-ho spoke when he was ready and not a second before. You're safe, he said finally. Still not turning around. You don't need to check the locks anymore. The room tilted. Her voice came out very controlled. Very careful. What did you do? He turned then. Looked at her directly. That full, unblinking attention he gave to very few things. What needed to be done? That is not an answer. It's the only one I have. She crossed the room in 6 steps and stood on the other side of his desk and looked at him with something that was equal parts fury and a thing she refused to name yet. I am not your sister, she said. The air left the room. His expression didn't break, but something behind it did. Just slightly. Just enough for her to see she had hit something real and deep and painful. She hadn't known about his sister. Not consciously. But she had watched this man for 3 weeks and she knew the shape of guilt when she saw it. She carried enough of her own. No, he said quietly. You're not. Then why? He was silent for a long moment. Because you reached for a folder, he said. And your sleeve moved. And I saw it. And he stopped. Started again. I've seen that mark before. On someone I didn't protect in time. Amora stood very still. This was the part where she should have said something clinical. Something that kept the professional distance intact. Instead what came out of her mouth was quiet and honest and cost her something. He did it the first time I tried to leave. Jin-ho closed his eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When he opened them, something had shifted, not softened. Jin-ho didn't soften, but it was like watching a man decide something. Permanently. It won't happen again, he said. And here is where it gets unpredictable, because Amora did not cry, did not crumble, did not reach for him. She straightened her spine, picked up his morning schedule from the desk, and said, "You have a call with the Busan delegation in 20 minutes. I've prepped the brief." She walked to the door, then stopped. Hand on the frame. Back still turned. Jin-ho. "Yes. Thank you." She left. Jin-ho stood in the silence she left behind, staring at the door. His second-in-command, Kang, chose that exact moment to walk in, stopped dead when he saw Jin-ho's face. He had worked for this man for 11 years. He had seen him negotiate with killers, survive assassination attempts, and bury his own father without shedding a single tear. He had never seen him look like that. "Sir, should I come back?" "Get out, Kang." Kang got out. But what neither of them knew, what would detonate everything by morning, was that Daniel Cruz had not come to Seoul alone. And the person he had come with was already inside Seol Holdings. The email came at 6 a.m. Amora's work account. No sender name. Just a subject line that made her stomach drop straight through the floor. "Ask your boss what really happened to his sister." She read it 3 times. Then she did what she had learned to do in dangerous situations. She got very quiet and she thought. She didn't forward it. Didn't delete it. She screenshot it, closed her laptop, and walked into the office like it was any other morning. But her mind was running at full speed. 3 names. One of them made her breath catch. Park Se-yeon. Jin-ho's personal communications coordinator. Quiet, efficient, had been with Seol Holdings for 2 years. Amora had liked her immediately, which, she now realized, she should have questioned. 2 years. Daniel had been controlling her life for exactly 2 years. She was still staring at the name when Jin-ho's door opened and he walked out already in his jacket, already moving. "Clear my afternoon," he said without stopping. "Jin-ho." He stopped. Turned. She was already holding out her phone with the screenshot pulled up. He read it once. His expression didn't change, but he went very still. That specific stillness she now knew meant something was about to happen that she didn't want to be in the room for. Where did this come from? "My work account. 6 a.m. No sender." She paused. "I think it's Se-yeon." Something crossed his face. Not surprise. Something worse, like confirmation of a thing he had hoped he was wrong about. "Go to my office," he said quietly. "Don't come out." Jin-ho. Amora. Just her name. The way he said it, low, direct, with a weight underneath it that wasn't a command so much as a plea, stopped her completely. She went to his office. She lasted 4 minutes before she cracked the door open anyway. What she saw in the hallway made everything rearrange itself. Kang had Se-yeon by the arm, not rough, but immovable. Se-yeon wasn't struggling. She was standing with the particular stillness of someone who had already decided how this played out. She was looking directly at Jin-ho with an expression Amora couldn't read from the doorway. Then Se-yeon spoke. Clear. Calm. Almost gentle. "I was Daniel's contact inside the building. He needed someone to watch her. I needed money. That's all it was." A pause. "But Jin-ho, what I said in that email is true. And you know it is. Ask yourself who told you Jiz's boyfriend was trustworthy. Ask yourself who vouched for him." The silence that followed was the loudest thing Amora had ever heard. Jin-ho's voice came out so quiet it was almost inaudible. "Get her out of my building." Kang moved. Se-yeon went without resistance, but at the last second she turned and looked straight at the cracked office door. Straight at Amora. And she smiled. Small. Sad. Almost apologetic. "He loved his sister," she said, to no one in particular. That was always going to be his weakness. Then she was gone. Amora stepped out of the office doorway. Jin-ho was standing in the hallway alone, back to her, one hand pressed flat against the wall. The posture of a man absorbing something that had hit him somewhere old and deep and unhealed. She walked to him slowly. Stood beside him. Didn't touch him. Didn't speak. Just stood there. Present. Solid. The way no one had ever just stood beside her when things fell apart. After a long moment he said. She vouched for him. 2 years ago. Said he was clean. I trusted her. Amora said nothing. Jizza believed me when I said he was safe. His voice was completely flat. She's dead because I trusted the wrong person. You were betrayed, Amora said quietly. That's not the same as being wrong. He turned and looked at her, really looked at her, with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Raw. Unguarded. Like the armor had slipped and he hadn't moved to fix it yet. She held his gaze and didn't look away. Something passed between them in that hallway that neither of them had words for yet, but it was real, and it was permanent, and they both felt it land. You should go home, he said finally. It's been a long day. So have the last 2 years, she said. I think I can manage. His mouth did something that was almost, a smile. She picked up her bag. Walked to the elevator. Pressed the button. Jin-ho. Yes. Seol said Daniel was her contact inside the building. She turned to look at him one last time. She said he needed someone to watch me. A pause. Which means Daniel knew exactly what you did. And he knew before he disappeared. The elevator doors opened. So either Daniel is gone, or someone made it look that way. She stepped inside. The doors closed. Jin-ho stood in the empty hallway for a long time. Then he reached for his phone. If you want to know what Jin-ho found when he made that call, and trust me, you are not ready for what comes next, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2 of Marked. And before you go, drop a comment. Did you trust Seol? Because nobody did. See you next time, besties.